Hi and welcome to another video. My name is Jerry Matthew. Thank you for choosing to be here. So today's video is a special one. I'm going to be talking about my breastfeeding journey. But before I get into it, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. And in case you've been watching my videos and you've not subscribed, please subscribe. And also remember to hit the notification bell to be notified every time I put up a new video. Also leave a like and leave a comment as well. Karibuni. Okay, so like I've mentioned, this video is going to be basically one that I'm going to share things that worked for me as a new mom in breastfeeding. You know, breastfeeding for me was one of those things I thought I knew until I realized, haya, kumbe, there's a formula, there's a way you do it, you know. I thought once you give birth to your baby, it's going to be automatic. As in, see, it's just putting your baby on your breast and that's it. But I came to realize that there's a way you do it so that you as a mom can be comfortable and protect yourself from cracked nipples and all that, and also so that your baby can be comfortable and feed well. So yeah, so basically this video is going to be for that. I'm going to be sharing my some of the things that worked for me. Let's get into it. The first thing is positioning. Now, as a mom, one thing that actually my mom told me is that you need to make sure that you're as comfortable as possible. There are many positions that you can breastfeed your baby in, but I think for me, one thing that worked for me is getting a chair or sitting in an upright position. If you're on your bed, you can prop yourself up with pillows or a pillow, and if that doesn't work for you, you can easily get a chair. Then after now you as a mom, you're comfortable, now you need to get a pillow. I talked about a boppy pillow in my previous video. You can go check that out if you haven't. You can get a boppy pillow. I think that really worked for me because it's such an easy, you know, thing to carry around the house, you know, even in hospital. Like it's I carried it everywhere, and I have it. I used to have it every time I breastfeed my baby, and it used to be close by. So you can get your boppy pillow. And then what the nurses in the hospital told me is that you and your baby need to be tummy to tummy. So your baby needs to be facing you. Whichever direction they're lying, whichever direction their head is, they always, when they're breastfeeding, they always need to be, you and your baby always need to be tummy to tummy. That way, you will ensure that you and your baby get a proper latch. Now, for me, I think that was a bit of a tricky thing because, you know, it needs some getting used to, especially as a new mom. And what happens if you and your baby does not latch well, is that you can get cracked nipples, and that's what happened to me. But actually, I found a solution for that, and that is nipple cream. There are many brands outside there. Actually, there are many brands that you can try out, but one in particular worked for me, and yeah, I found it really helpful because once I got the cracked nipples after breastfeeding, I would apply the nipple cream, and it would help just in the healing process, you know. But that does not mean that you don't continue breastfeeding. That's one thing the nurses told me. Even though utapata cracked nipples, continue breastfeeding. I know it is brutal, but continue, because the moment you stop, you will not get back into it. Yeah. Okay. So now, let's assume now you've mastered the positioning and all that. Now there's the issue of, okay, how do you know if you have enough milk? Now that was the question I was asking myself. How do I know that I have enough milk? How do I know that my baby is actually breastfeeding? You know, these are some of the things that seem obvious, but they're not obvious, you know, especially for a new mom. So one thing I learned is that after breastfeeding, your baby needs to look content. You know, the same way after eating, you look content. That's the same way your baby is supposed to be. After breastfeeding, they need to look content and happy, you know. The other thing is when they're breastfeeding, for you, in order for you to know that they're actually breastfeeding, that milk is actually coming out of your breast, is you will see them swallowing. Just the same way when you're swallowing, the lower jaw, it drops and rises like that. That's what happens with your baby as well. You know, ukimwangalia when they're breastfeeding, you will see that enyewe they're swallowing. And also it may be accompanied by swallowing sounds as well. That's one thing I noticed. The motion and the swallowing sounds. The other thing is before a feed, your breast will feel full, and after a feed, your breast will feel empty. In the initial stages for me, I was a bit confused about that, but once I got enough milk in my breasts and my breast started becoming full, I could tell, haya, kumbe, my breast is lighter. You know, I didn't know what a light breast feels like, because during my pregnancy, in the initial stage, from the first trimester, my breast became fuller and heavier. So I didn't know what that meant until now, a few weeks into now the postpartum journey, and then I realized, hi, kumbe, it feels lighter. Like I could tell there was a difference between when my breast had milk and when my breast didn't have milk. Now, the other thing that I learned is now, okay, I got my baby at a time when during COVID nini I was at home, but then now I had to go back to work, you know. So now I wanted to build a stash for myself. Like, I didn't want to go back to work and leave my baby without any milk, you know. Like, I had stories of moms of moms having to supplement their babies with cow milk or formula. There's nothing wrong with that if you're unable to breastfeed as a mom, but for me, I really wanted to build, you know, a stash. And I think I'll show the video of my stash right here. I actually had much more than this. It's just that my baby has consumed majority of it. So I really wanted to build my stash. I really wanted my baby to have something to breast milk to consume when I was away, you know. So there are certain things that you can do, that I did to increase my milk supply. And one thing that I learned is that you need to pump often or breastfeed often. Okay, basically you need to empty your breast as often as possible. That's what I learned. So in the beginning, in the initial stages in hospital, I was told you need to breastfeed your baby for 30 minutes on each breast. Man, that's such a long time, you know. But I got to realize as my baby grew older, and my milk supply became more, I realized that my baby would get full from just breastfeeding on one side. So now what I would do is I would pump milk from the other side, you know. And sometimes that he would not finish, you know, milk from one side, breast on one side. So I would pump both sides just so that I can empty the breasts. Do you know the art of breastfeeding is a supply and demand thing, you know. So the more you breastfeed your baby, the more your body tells your brain to produce more milk. So the more you pump, like after every feed, I would make sure I pump. After, like, if my baby would oversleep, sometimes my baby would in the middle of the night, I would wake up to pump. You know, that's when now my baby would start sleeping throughout the night. I would wake up and pump. Badala ya kubaki na maziwa, I would wake up and remove the milk, you know, so that the body iendelee kufikiria yenyewe we need to keep producing milk. So if you can manage that as a mom, that would be a really good thing, because the more you pump, the more milk you produce. The more you pump, the more milk you produce. And actually I got to realize that if today I pump, let's say 160 ml, next week nita pump 180. Like the supply continues increasing and increasing and increasing. So keep at it, keep pumping, keep breastfeeding. If you can't breastfeed often, if you're away from your baby, keep pumping. Invest in a good pump and keep pumping. Yeah, let's talk about now, the other thing that worked for me is eating well. I remember one thing that the nurses insisted on is eating well, meaning eating nutrient dense foods. So that means kama ni rice, like good quality rice, you know, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beef, what are these things called? Lentils, you know, things like those that are really nutrient dense, and also a lot of vegetables and fruits. One thing that I tried is the oxtail soup. That's something that, you know, as Kenyans we really recommend, but it didn't work for me because I realized that actually that ukishachemsha that oxtail soup, there's like a layer of fat that is left on top of the sufuria. That thing made me break out, made my face break out, and I didn't like it because that extra fat was not working for me. So I had to stop. The other thing I tried was uji. Uji for me at that time, it was not working for me as well because it could anipatia acid reflux. So I was like, this thing, bana, these things are not working for me. So what I did is I opted to drink lots of water. So actually, mpaka leo, to date, that's what has worked for me. I've not taken lactation teas, I've not taken lactation cookies and all that. Uji, oxtail, water, hydrating. So that's what has worked for me, and now accompanied by now eating well and eating good portions. Another misconception I think we have as Kenyans is that when you're breastfeeding, you need to eat big portions. You know, I don't think that's true. I actually did some research and I learned that as a breastfeeding mom, you only need about 500 more calories. You know, that's about what an extra snack, you know, during the day. It can be a bowl of fruits, it can be, you know, just something healthy, uji or something that you like, you know. So it doesn't mean that now ukukula sahani mbili during supper, sahani mbili during lunch. I think that's even how people end up gaining a lot of weight and you don't know how to shed the weight. So for me, that has really worked for me. Eating really well, making sure you're eating a healthy diet, because at the end of the day, you're sharing nutrients with your baby. So your baby will atachukua nutrients zote akuache bila if you don't eat well. So I've been eating well, you know, taking my water, and it has worked for me. So I think that's it from me. If you're a new mom or an oldie in this mom life, you can let me know in the comments what did you do. You know, what tips do you have for any new mom? You know, what did you do to increase your milk supply? What did you do to, you know, to protect yourself from nipple cracks and all that? Let me know in the comments if you're a mom, and if you're an aspiring mom. I hope that this video will encourage you. Motherhood is beautiful. It has its ups, it has its downs, but it's such a beautiful journey. Remember, if you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and leave a like for me and leave a comment. See you next time.